Honorable President and Convener of the Manipur Sakti, Professor Asa Gupta, Resource Person, Professor J.K. Garg, Indraprastha University, Delhi, faculty members of Manipur University, faculty members of different universities and colleges, administrators, research scholars, and participants. Good evening to one and all. Manipur Sakti, in collaboration with SEED Manipur, is organizing Science Week. Today, Manipur Sakti is celebrating National Science Day to commemorate the discovery of Raman effect by Indian physicist Sir C.V. Raman. I, Bitishori Khangimam of Tamenglong College, on behalf of Manipur Sakti, will say a few words. I welcome you all full-heartedly on this occasion. I welcome Professor J.K. Garg, Indraprastha University, Delhi, for sparing his valuable time in delivering lecture on the topic Geomatics Science in Wetland Management, Skill Development and Job. All participants present here. I also welcome Professor Asa Gupta, President and Convener of Manipur Sakti. Geomatics refers to any technology or business service associated with 2 or 3-dimensional mapping, from environmental pollution monitoring to directional well drilling to automated tractors that through global positioning systems and computer remote sensing have proven very important and useful for mapping and monitoring wetland resources. So this Science Week is organized to discuss about geometric science in wetland management, skill development, and job creation. Now, I request Dr. Sophia Morantem of S.K. Kula College to introduce our respondent, Professor J.K. Indraprastha University, to the participants.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Biteshwari. Good evening, everyone. It is my great pleasure to introduce today's resource person, Honorable Professor J.K. Garg. Professor J.K. Garg completed MPhil degree from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, and awarded PhD degree from Gujarat University, Ahmedabad. Professor Garg has more than 44 years wide-ranging professional experience in the field use of geospatial techniques for ecosystem analysis and monitoring, especially wetlands in India. He started his professional career in 1976 in Space Applications Center, Indian Space Research Organization, Ahmedabad. His academic career began in February 2008 when he joined Indraprastha University. He was the Dean in University School of Environmental Management and Director, Center for Disaster Management Studies in Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, New Delhi. After superannuation, he was with TERI, the Energy Resource Institute, School of Advanced Studies as Senior Fellow from March 2019 to October 2020. Professor Garg pioneered the use of remote sensing and GIS techniques for environmental applications in India. However, people know him more for conceptualizing and implementing first scientific inventory of wetlands in India using Indian remote sensing satellite data. He is nationally and internationally known for initiating use of geospatial science for wetland management in India. Also, Professor Garg has implemented 12 projects related to bioresources and environment, disaster management, and ecosystem rehabilitation and restoration. He is presently associated with Wetlands International South Asia. He has published more than 180 research publications. I now request my colleague Dr. Biteshwari to take the program forward. Thank you.
Now, I request Professor S.K. Garg, Indraprastha University, to give a speech.
Thank you, Tansuya and Dr. Biteshwari for giving such a nice introduction. I think I'm audible to everybody. Audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Audible. Yes, sir.
Okay. Visible as well. And now let me share my presentation as well so that I know that whether
Sir, you can just override the screen.
that I don't know how to do, but
No, it's a regular routine. You just go for the presentation. It will override itself. It will automatically do that.
no, I you know, present your entire screen. That's what I do.
Yeah, yeah. You have to go for the entire screen, and you have to switch your window to the PPT. Then everyone can see.
Now window is available. Window is, you know, can we see?
Yeah, it's coming up.
Can you see the presentation?
Not yet, sir.
Then what do I do? Share now.
You have to change the screen to the PPT. Then everyone will be able to see the entire screen.
How to change that? More options. Change layout, full screen, change background, captions, report problem.
You go on.
Sir, have you select the
You go on
presentation on
present
entire
now.
screen, right?
Present now, actually, I am doing your entire screen.
No, just you go on that and share your slides.
Slides are. You know, I'm not able to share. You know, because share your entire screen says Chrome wants to share the contents of your screen with meet.google.com. Then further, you know, below there are disabled share and cancel. I really, can somebody guide me?
Sir, are you using Google Chrome?
No, actually, what I am doing is that my PowerPoint is open. Now I say present your entire screen. That's what I am doing.
Okay. After selecting the entire screen, you just have to switch your window to the PPT, the presentation. Then everyone
That I'm
will
not
be able to see.
where to look for that.
You have an option there. You just click that and then your presentation will come on the screen. Just you see where it is present now, you will get the option to share your screen.
Yeah, that is coming. Then after
Just
that,
you click it. Then you click it. You click it your presentation. Then it will come on the screen.
presentation is clicked. Yeah. You know, this is share.
Just you share it. Then it will come on the screen. Yes, it will come.
Yeah, it's coming up right now.
Now it is coming.
Yeah. Sir, now all you have to do is open the presentation. Then everyone will be able to see. Just open the presentation. Yeah.
Now it is
Then
visible.
full screen. Yeah,
Ah.
go for full screen. Yeah.
Make it for full screen, then it will come on the full screen.
It is full screen now. Okay.
So I hope you people are able to see, but I can't see you people. It's fine.
Don't worry, you just present it. Your presentation is on the screen.
Everyone's able to see your PPTs. No issue.
Thank you, everybody, especially Professor Asha Gupta and Biteshwari and other person who introduced me. And today's topic, which has been chosen, is use of geometric science, which involves remote sensing, GIS, satellite-based navigation system, and many other things in wetland management, skill development, and job creation. Now, this thing has been already introduced. We are celebrating National Science Day in honor of the invention of Raman effect by Professor C.V. Raman on this day in the year 1922. And why it is important is that science and technology is very important to our life, in our lifetime. And when we see present day conditions, what we find is that most of our resources, well, be it forest or wetlands or oceans, they are under severe stress. Earlier, there were not many tools to study them and monitor them. But now, fortunately, during the last 45 years, with the launch of Landsat satellite by US, we have come a long way, and now there are many satellites. And now the science is also quite developed, and it has applications in various spheres of bioresources and environment. And it is guiding us to get sustainable development and meet many sustainable development goals. Now, in my present lecture, what I will be focusing on will be what is remote sensing, GIS, and satellite-based navigation briefly, so that some of you may not be aware with this. And then how wetlands and geomatics are, can be studied rather using geometric techniques, especially for inventory, health monitoring, and restoration. And then towards the end, I will deal with what are the main sources of satellite data, training institutions in the country, and what are the job perspectives. But let us see first what is remote sensing, or geoinformatics, which is called. In fact, it is known by nowadays many names. Many names are given to this: geomatics, geospatial techniques, geoinformatics. But basically, it involves use of remote sensing, which can be done in many regions in optical, thermal, and microwave. I shall dwell upon briefly on these topics as well. Then we have a geographical information system, which is a data integrating technology. Remote sensing is a data providing technology. And then we have satellite-based navigation system, like GPS, what we have in our mobiles. And then Indian constellation, navigation Indian constellation, popularly called NAVIC. Then we have GLONASS from Russia, Galileo from ESA, European Union, and then China has BIDU. But even if we know the technology, then domain knowledge is very important. Knowing technology don't make its application in various spheres, and a good knowledge of various domains like ecology, water resources, geology, geography, oceanography, etc., is paramount to exploit this technology for better management and sustainable development. Now, I will not go into many details. This word remote sensing is of very recent coinage. In fact, it was this name was given in 1960 only, and which deals with the art and science of obtaining information about an object without being in direct contact with the object. Like the way we are seeing each other, we are seeing moon, we are seeing trees, we are seeing water. That itself is, we are not coming into direct contact, but there has to be a medium. Especially in this case, in our case, it is atmosphere is involved. Now, if you see our electromagnetic spectrum, which we have done some experiments in school also, and that word Vibgyor you must be remembering, starting from violet to goes to red. Besides these visible bands, we have some other bands which are hidden to us, and they are in towards the red later part. We have infrared region, we have microwave region, and radio regions. And towards the left, where shorter wavelengths are involved, we have ultraviolet, X-rays, and gamma rays. As we go towards the right, wavelength increases, and accordingly energy also decreases. And to define it, electromagnetic spectrum, briefly we can say it is a continuum of wavelengths of electromagnetic radiation, and only a very small portion of which includes visible light, basically from 0.4 to 0.7 micrometer. Now, on the left side, you see various things written like ultraviolet, which is 0.3 to 0.4 micrometer, visible is 0.4 to 0.7 micrometer, near infrared is 0.7 to 1.3 micrometer, photographic infrared, in which in fact we have the films which are sensitive to this region, are from 0.7 to 0.9 micrometer, and then we have middle infrared 1.3 to 3 micrometer, which is also called shortwave infrared region, and that is basically sensitive to leaf water content. And thermal infrared, which spans 3 micrometer to 14 micrometer. Now, another part is that the problem with optical part, which includes visible and near infrared, is that during rainy season there are problems. So we cannot get information when the sky is cloudy or there is rainfall. And fortunately for us, we have another region which can penetrate through the clouds. And if the rain is not very heavy, then still we can get the information. And these names PLS, etc., C, they were given during World War II just to make it hide from the enemy. But normally in remote sensing, we use C, X, and L band, and now of course there may be P band usage also may be coming. And you will be surprised to know that our microwave ovens in our houses, they operate in S band, basically 2 to 4 gigahertz. Now, what are the advantages or what are the main characteristics of remote sensing, which is a data providing technology? That it provides you a synoptic view, and it is multispectral in character. Spectral means pertaining to again wavelength, and we can get information in various spectral bands and regions. And if we think of satellite remote sensing, then we can say that we can get information every day or after a fixed interval of time, especially when our satellites are orbiting in polar orbit or sun synchronous orbit. And we can get information during all weathers, day and night. Now, as many of you may be aware that we have satellites, we have sensors. Satellites are basically platforms on which we mount sensors or instruments. Satellites are, just like our aircraft or some tripod. They are remote sensing satellites. Normally are, above 700 or sometimes even 500 kilometers away in the space. And most of the times they are passive. means they are using energy either reflected or emitted by the Earth atmosphere system. And some of the satellites which we have in this case are our own resource set, Cartosat, Landsat, Sport, Modis, etc. When we talk of active sensors, it is like our normal mobile camera or some other camera. If we are using it during daytime, then it is a passive system. But if we are using a flash, then it becomes active system. And some of the satellites like our own RISat, which is a microwave remote sensing satellite, radar set, lidar, etc., they have their own source of energy, and that is precisely the reason that we can get information about Earth resources during all weathers and day and night. Now, though the lecture is small, but you should know that we have many orbits. Satellites can be low Earth orbit, which is about 100 to 1500 kilometer. And today you must have seen that PSLV launching Amazonia 1 satellite of Brazil that is in low Earth orbit. Then we have medium Earth orbit, 5,000 to 10,000 kilometer. Geostationary orbits are normally 36,000 kilometer away and primarily used for communication purposes. But nowadays we have many satellites, including India, though the resolution is slightly coarser, but they continuously look at our Earth and we get information. They are very useful for monitoring rapidly changing phenomena like forest fire, like flood, etc. Most of our remote sensing satellites are polar in nature, and they orbit from north to south or south to north, and we get information every day in some or the other part of the Earth. But what we should observe is that in any remote sensing, we have to have some energy source, which can be sun or some other source. There has to be a target, and this energy will interact with the target. It will impinge upon the target. Some of may be reflected, some may be absorbed, some may be transmitted. And then after again passing through the atmosphere, the sensors or the instruments on board some aircraft or spacecraft, they get the information which is transmitted to the Earth and then further made in a manner that it can be analyzed and put to various applications. Now towards your bottom right, you must be seeing some curve. It is a reflectance curve or a spectral response of three main categories, or you can say surfaces, what we see on the Earth's surface. We have water, we have vegetation and soil. And especially in case of wetlands, water is the driving force, and it's very important to derive information using satellite remote sensing on a continuous basis. And vegetation, many of you may be knowing that chlorophyll, why we see in vegetation green, it is because reflectance in green region where chlorophyll reflectance is there. Blue and red region are required for photosynthesis because I believe many of you are from biological sciences. And this shoulder, what you see, is because of multiple reflections in the intercellular spaces in the leaf, especially in the mesophyll and palisade tissue. And these two dips where, I don't know whether you are able to see my cursor or not, they are water absorption band, and we can get information about the leaf water content in this. Now there are four terms which normally we come across, which are spatial resolution, spectral resolution, radiometric resolution, and temporal resolution. Spatial resolution refers to the size of the smallest object that can be detected by a satellite sensor or displayed in a satellite image. You see here 4 images, and they are from Indian remote sensing satellite. One is, and 3 of them are on board resource set. A-Waves is a sensor which provides us information every 5 days, but it can be steered and we can get every day as well if there is a need. And its spatial resolution is 56 meters. So for large scale applications like at the country level or full state level, where we don't need too much detail, like changes in forest cover, etc., this can be used. Then we have list 3, where the spatial resolution is 23 meter, and list 4 is 5.8 meter. List stands for linear imaging self-scanning sensor. And we have Carto 3, where the resolution is better than meter, sub-meter rather. So normally we categorize satellite data into 2 categories, or maybe a third we can add, coarse resolution category. But normally for resource senses and resource monitoring, we use medium spatial resolution data, optical, what I'm talking about, which is 10 to 80 meter we have it, like resource set, list 3, A-Waves, Landsat, Sentinel, etc. Then we have high spatial resolution, which is better than 10 meter. Our own list 4, Cartosat, Worldview, Iconos, etc. That tells us that what type of satellite data we should use. If you keep on increasing the resolution, then sometimes you may not get the desired information. For example, crop inventory. But depending on our requirement, we have to choose the proper satellite data, proper season also. Sometimes it is required. And now in these images, list 4, you can see even some agricultural plots, and boundary vegetation or trees can also be seen. And in Cartosat, you have very detailed information. Normally, Cartosat type of satellite data is very, very useful for urban studies. Then we have another thing is spectral resolution, which describes the ability of a sensor to define fine wavelength intervals. The finer the spectral resolution, the narrower the wavelength range for a particular channel or a band. And if we keep on increasing, then ultimately we come to hyperspectral remote sensing. So earlier, for example, if we have blue, green, red, and this color, then there are 4 spectral regions, and then we can keep on increasing. But then the cost and other things also increase. And the third resolution, which is very important, is radiometric resolution, which is measured in bit. Bit is 2 raised to power 1, which refers to the ability of the sensor to distinguish different gray scale values. It is basically like this. If we go to a matching center where normally our female people go to match, and we see various shades of, let us say, green or red, that basically help us to understand what is radiometric resolution. And finally, we have temporal resolution, which refers to the repetitivity or revisit capability of any satellite sensor. So this is image you are seeing is resource set 1. It is some area covering Ahmedabad. And this I wanted to show because in the almost center you see SAC campus, where most of the payloads, what we call in jargon, as far as satellites are concerned, whether it is remote sensing or communication, are manufactured or prepared or developed. And applications also we, research and those kind of things we do at this center. And then we have PRL here in the right corner on the eastern side, from where our space program has originated. And this, this image has 5.8 meter resolution, But if you see visually, then you require 3 into 3 pixels to see the picture. Now, advantages of Earth observation satellites, as I mentioned earlier, they are available for large regions, means provide synoptic cover. Long time series we are getting from 1972 onwards. Consistency and comparability we can compare, and mostly free nowadays. Landsat data is free, Sentinel data is free, and some of our Indian remote sensing satellite data, some data is free but not very high resolution. So our new geospatial technology may improve the availability of Indian data as well. Now, what are the disadvantages of Earth observation satellites? Most of us are tuned to getting information in the field where we do point measurement, and we need information, for example, at a point that many times may not be available using satellite data. And then in the optical region, which includes our visible and near infrared region, the satellites have, or the sensors have, poor capability to detect below water or underwater. Another thing is that requires technical expertise. You need people who can elicit or drive the information. And another thing is that it is very difficult to have high spatial, spectral, and temporal resolution data from the same satellite. So these are some of the advantages, but they are not very surmounting. Now, just to complete, there are various methods, or there are two methods mainly how we drive information. Visually, we analyze the data based on tone, texture, shape, size, etc. And then we have digital data analysis, which can be mainly, actually, I'm giving very brief introduction, supervised, unsupervised, and hybrid. Supervised means that we train certain pixels, and those pixels in turn classify the remaining data. And in unsupervised, we ask the system to do classification based on the natural spectral grouping for clusters. And then we label them after comparison to reference data. And another thing is that we use mixture. There are many instruments and softwares available. Nowadays, even open source softwares are available. ISRO has also developed software, IGIS. Otherwise, most of you are familiar with the IRDAS, Imagine, NV, and GIS, ArcGIS, etc. And as far as free softwares are concerned, we have ILWIS, we have for GIS, QGIS, and many more softwares are available which can be used, and which are based on even machine learning algorithm, which can and which are very useful. So this shows, I will not go into the detail that there are so many satellites. The first operational remote sensing satellite of India was launched on 17th March 1988, called Indian Remote Sensing Satellite 1A, and now we have ResourceSat 2 and ResourceSat 3 also may be available. Now another, I was referring to, so far we have discussed what remote sensing is all about. Now briefly I will dwell upon what GIS is defined. It is, again I repeat, it is a data integrating technology, and to find out solutions, this is very important. GIS is a computer-based information system to capture, manage, update, analyze, display, and output spatial data and information to be used in a decision-making context. Now, India is going in a big way, and to achieve this, we also need people. Standards are there, procedures are there, and then we have to keep on updating our application areas, that details which we are getting. And what you see is that various layers, it can make use of two types of data, which is raster, like our TV screen, we have small pixels, and another is like our maps, which are vector in nature, and real world, and we can in fact use even photographs, elevation data, street data, and so on and so forth. and they all can be integrated in GIS software to elicit information. And this, of course, you are aware, most of us are using GPS. GPS is, in fact, it has become a name for satellite-based navigation. But GPS, Global Positioning System, is a US system, and they have 32 satellites, but normally 24 are used, and 3 are required for triangulation to find out the location. And India also has its own navigation system called Navik or IRMS, which is called Navik now. So this triangle I have made to show somehow that many of you must be using satellite data, that what type of data for which scale is required. Suppose we are making a local plan or implementation plan, then we may need better than 1 meter resolution data. If we are doing some local work, then 5 meter, like our resource set list 4 may be useful. District level list 4 again, and state level, suppose you are doing deforestation mapping in the state of Manipur, then list 3 data itself may be useful, and so on and so forth. Now, after this brief introduction, I am sure that you are, many of you who are not familiar with geomatics or geoinformatics, they have some clue about what remote sensing is, what GIS is, and what satellite-based navigation is. Now I come to wetlands, where you people are mostly familiar, and especially Manipur. You have the Loktak Lake, which is lifeline of Manipur. I will show some examples from that also. Wetlands are typically low-lying areas. And now, normally, if I can say so, they should not be more than 3-4 meter deep. But for management purposes, we have to include even the deeper parts of the wetlands. They can be natural or man-made. As you will see later on, that our man-made wetland area is more than natural wetland area in the country. They can be inland or coastal. Manipur has mainly inland, but our maritime states have large areas under coastal wetlands. Then, they include floodplains, swamps, marshes, mangroves, deltas, and lakes are some types of wetlands. Paddy farm technically also is a wetland, but since it is agriculture, so normally we are not mainly dwelling into conservation of paddy farm. And wetland can contain fresh water, brackish water, or marine water. Brackish water is Sambar Lake in Rajasthan, and many such lakes again in Rajasthan. Some alkaline lakes in the Himalayan, in Ladakh and other regions, they also have. But the scientific definition in which we are following, as far as India is concerned, we are following Ramsar definition, convention definition, which I shall also develop on briefly. Wetlands are submerged or water-saturated lands, both natural and man-made, permanent or temporary, with water that is static or flowing, brackish or salt, including areas of marine water, the depth of which does not exceed 6 meters. But in some areas, suppose it is less than 6 meters, there may be pools which are deeper than 6 meters. They also will fall under wetlands. And as far as our natural wetlands are concerned, you have an example of Loktakes and various parts in Manipur, Oxbow lakes, and so many other types of lakes are there in the country. But scientifically, US Fish and Wildlife Service definition, which was given by Coverdine et al., which treats wetlands as transitional areas. Basically, they are the lands transitional between terrestrial and aquatic systems, where the water table is usually at or near the surface, so the land is covered. And they are various wetland systems, basically 5. They can be associated with marine systems like coastal wetlands, including rock shores, coral reefs, mangroves, etc. estuarines are there, including deltas, tidal marshes, and mangrove. Lacustrine basically associated with lakes. Riverine like our Oxbow lakes and wetlands and marshy areas along rivers and streams. And palestrine, which are marshy or swamps and bogs and peats, etc., which are reported in some parts of India, especially in Ladakh and northeast. Now, when we study any wetland ecosystem, there are three H: wetland hydrology, hydrophytic vegetation, and hydric soil. But normally, wetland hydrology is more important because it is the driving force. If water is not available, then no wetland may be functional. Hydrophytic vegetation, you people are familiar because I don't have to say that there are many aquatic plants like Valisneria and even this invasive species, water hyacinth, with which everybody in the country is familiar. They are hydrophytic vegetation. They are the characteristic features of wetlands. Then the diagram you see beside this thing, what I believe firmly is that wetland system comprises not only hydrophytic vegetation and hydrology, but the people, its catchment, and the chemistry and biology of the lake or wetland itself. And as you are aware that wetlands provide us with large services, ecosystem services, and they provide various benefits to us. But all these services are primarily derived from or based on supporting services, which are nothing but ecosystem functions like nutrient cycling, soil formation, biodiversity, and structural components, which I have, this term was given to describe within wetland features, like you have humbees or some islands in the lakes, primary production, fixation of carbon, habitat for wildlife, etc. And these services are responsible for providing us provisioning services like water, food, fodder, fuel, timber, fiber, medicines, etc. And then if wetlands are not there, suppose you cover a wetland, I remember from my experience in Ahmedabad, there was a small pond behind my house. A multi-story building came there, and at that time there was no stormwater drainage. Whole road become knee deep, or maybe waist deep during rainy season. So basically they are very they prevent floods. They are very important for water purification, climate moderation, disease control, pollution control, etc. Then they also provide various religious, spiritual, tourism activities. Ganga River. All rivers basically are in India are worshipped, and most of our lakes. There are also some of our lakes like Renuka Lake in Himachal Pradesh that also is worshipped, and like that there are many lakes which are so wetlands are very important because they provide us myriad and beaches, etc. So this image I have taken, and which is a very coarse image, but it shows various wetlands globally. But normally 4 to 8% of the area, global area, terrestrial area, including the coastal areas, are supposed to be under wetlands. And as we have seen in the case of that triangle which I showed, that this area also will depend on the scale on which mapping has been done. And if they're using remote sensing, there are chances that we may they will be always underreported. And this world wetland database includes lake, reservoir, rivers, etc., freshwater mass. But these are larger areas, and you will see that entire world is full of wetlands, but it is not. And this figure, basically is based on 2007-8 inventory of wetlands, which was done by Space Application Center. And it divides wetland into 19 types. And from the image or the, you can say pie chart on your right side, you see that rivers occupy maximum area. In the first scientific inventory, when we carried out, we did not include the river area, which occupied about 5 million hectare area, if I can say, means the largest area is occupied by rivers, which and followed by reservoirs. So as far as Atlantic ecosystems are, 1990, the world has lost about 50% of its wetland, and around 60% loss is in Europe. In the past 2 decades, 35% of mangroves have disappeared. Some countries have lost up to 80%. In fact, mangroves are equatorial ecosystems. They will be found in tropical, mainly in tropical climates only. And 20% of the world's coral reef are destroyed, and 20% of the remaining reefs are under imminent risk of collapse through coral bleaching. Now, as far as India is concerned, we don't have a very good report, but we try to compare. Only loss is occurring in smaller wetland area, but large wetlands fortunately are not getting lost mainly, but smaller wetlands we are losing at very fast rate. A study was conducted by Wetland International South Asia, with which I'm associated for the last many decades, that India has lost nearly 1/3 of its natural wetlands to urbanization, agricultural expansion, and pollution over the last 4 decades, especially in the urban areas like Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, Delhi, NCR, and Pune. Mumbai wetland cover has gone down from 4.58 square kilometer to 1.3 square kilometer, and Delhi NCR from 2.21 square kilometer to 1.3 square kilometer. And WISA's report is based on analysis of satellite images of land use and land and ground data of 22 cities and towns. Now, as far as major threats are concerned, you people are aware that urbanization and land use changes, conversion to agriculture, hydrologic alteration like damming of rivers, and barrages, etc. Now, for example, Loktak Lake was a natural thing, but now with the erection of Vithai barrage, it has also become some sort of man-made wetland. Eutrophication is a serious problem which refers to enrichment of nutrients like phosphate and nitrates, which leads to further, large-scale mushrooming of aquatic vegetation and weeds. And we have invasive species like water hyacinth, etc. And due to global climate change, etc., I will not go into the details of this. Now, when we talk of remote sensing of wetlands, some curve you have seen here, that in near infrared region, water absorbs everything. So basically, if we have to delineate the boundary of any water body, then we should choose near infrared region so that we can get sharp boundary. And in the curve, you can see that there are peaks and there are troughs. And these are basically due to vegetation, and the lower portion spectral properties due to various suspended or submerged, you can say. And these are various plants. These are from a wetland which is near to Delhi, about 70 kilometers, called Vindavas wetland, which is alternate to Bharatpur Kevladev National Park, because that is under Montreal, this thing like Loktak. This Montreal Protocol refers to a wetland when it has lost its ecological character, like Loktak Lake and Bharatpur. We are not able to restore both. Chilka is a shining example where it was possible to restore its ecological character. And these are various species which are occurring, and like Icornia is there, Hydrilla is there, which is a submerged species, Sylvania, etc., and so many other species are there. Now, when we look at the satellite data, those were the field things which were there, and using a field-based hyperspectral remote sensor, or we use spectroradiometer to get this information, just to find out whether it is possible to differentiate various species or not. So these are some of the wetlands, how they appear on the satellite data, like lakes. This is Narsur in Gujarat. These are Oxbow lakes or horseshoe-shaped lakes. This is Somurari, a Ramsar site in the urban territory of Ladakh. And this is Sokhar, which is also a Ramsar site, 42nd Ramsar site of the country. These are marshes, etc., associated with rivers. This is small reservoir, and this is barrage, Yamuna barrage in Delhi, Okhla barrage. This is Chilka Lake, and by looking at this, you can make out that there are various shades of blue. They refers to various qualitative turbidity level, and using field data, they can be correlated and we can get quantitative information about turbidity. These are creeks are there. Then these are, red indicates mangroves. They are from Gujarat. Then we have intertidal flats, coral reefs. This is from Andaman, Nicobar, this whitish area, but they will be always underreported. And we have salt pans, especially in Gujarat. Now, to get a qualitative turbidity, some feel of qualitative turbidity, we have, if the dark blue color is there, it is low, moderate, and very high. This thing. And this is Wular Lake in Kashmir, mainly infested with trappa and other species, and vegetation appears red in conventional feldspar composition. So India was among the first countries in the world, large countries in the world, to use satellite remote sensing for inventory of wetlands in the country. So we started this work in 1992-93 time frame. At that time, there was no GIS. So mainly we did our inventory using visual analysis of satellite data. And Manipur Remote Sensing Center was involved into this work also. About 30 agencies were involved. And Dr. Sunita was also involved from Manipur Remote Sensing Center, though there were many other people. At that time, N.S. Singh was the director there. Then after doing this inventory, it led to a further interest of developing information system, which we did develop for the state of West Bengal. And just to get the feel of it, that suppose we have to find out where is our wetland, what is its condition, what is its present use, etc. And then we went for a third thing, means basically inventory at the national level, wetland information system at the state level, then resources, Loktak Lake Resources Information System, which was the work for which was also done in association with Loktak Development Authority. At that time, Dr. T. Maniar was its director. And then subsequently, what you see is that in 2011, when this 2007-8 satellite data was used, and at that time, after initiating this work, I shifted to IP University or Guru Gobind Singh University, and this is the latest data which can be available. Now this wetland information system can be put to various use. It tells us where, how, and what is its condition, and we can get information for a particular wetland. We can get information for the district, for the entire state as well. And this information, this wetland information system, which I named WinSys, can provide information about various things like water quality, planning, aquaculture, wetland management, and so on and so forth. Now, this you are familiar, though this work is a little old, but it does tell us that satellite data can be used to map various humdis. And you must be aware that once upon a time, people thought, and maybe now I don't know what is the condition, that more humdis or floating biomass means more fishes and so on. but they were not sustainable. So this work was done, and in consultation with Manipur Remote Sensing Center and Loktak authorities, we came to a conclusion that not more than 30% of the area should be under FUMDIs if we have to have sustainable utilization of the resources. So basically, we can map even these small features in a wetland if it is large enough. And then for this also, for Loktak also, we develop Loktak Resources Information System, which besides information based on remote sensing, includes field data, land use, slope, etc. And we can generate various reports and do spatial analysis and get information that what should be done at which place, what are the requirements. And as I have said, that GIS is basically data integrating and decision making. Now we come to wetland health. This is the research which which was done after I shifted to IP University, because it's very important. If we have to protect our wetlands, then we have to monitor their health regularly. And those indicators are like chlorophyll, turbidity, and trophic state index. And they can be studied using satellite data. Only thing is that all these things require field data, and once you have calibrated, then they can be used for other places also. So this small exercise was done for Chhattisgarh, and some few tehsils were selected, and we selected this Landsat 8 data, and these bands are given here, and by developing certain algorithm, it was possible to get information about turbidity, about trophic state index, which refers to what are the conditions. So basically, this is a small reservoir which is totally eutrophic, and chlorophyll concentration at various places. Normally, when we are doing field measurement, we make point measurement. But if we have to explore, expand it and to include the entire area, then only satellite remote sensing and GIS can help us. And of course, mapping aquatic vegetation. Similarly, for low-tech ecosystems as well, one of my students has submitted his PhD recently. This is also a RAM site from Breast Ghat to Narora. And earlier, this was the only riverine or river Ramsar site. And every full moon day or Poonam or Purnamasi, people go for taking bath in Ganga River. Breast Ghat is a very important place for these people. And there are large number of people visiting this place. And also, this is a reference site for Ganga River. Basically means when we are doing restoration, we have to have some reference area, and this is that reference site. And detailed due to time constraints, I cannot go into the detail. But even in the case of low-tech ecosystems or like river streams, etc., it is possible to identify the areas of erosion, deposition, especially in the plain areas. In the hilly areas, it may not work because the rivers are defined or confined. But in the plain areas like Indo-Gangetic Plain or like Loktak Lake Valley, etc., it may be possible to find out that where there is erosion and where there is, this green area represent deposition area, and this reddish area represent your erosion areas. Similarly, we can monitor chlorophyll in the river, besides providing us information about its productivity. By studying chlorophyll, we also know about its fish, etc. Because if food is not available, there will not be fishes. And this in this area we have even dolphin also is there in this area. Basically, this water is not that bad, but some part of the river are really in very bad shape, as we'll see in the next slide. For example, this near Narora, where we have atomic power plant, the river is in very bad shape. and between Bridge Ghat and the village near Poot, some part, and especially this bathing area, which is very prominent, the water quality is very, very poor. So all these things, remote sensing plus field data plus GIS, we are able to make decisions that where we have to do what. Now, after doing inventory at national level, state level, developing information system for a particular source, and health monitoring, then the last step is to do ecosystem restoration. And this also we try to do for it. Yeah, another thing before I go, that as I was referring earlier, that Renuka is a religious site and it falls in Solan district of Himachal Pradesh. Its catchment is forested. So we can study landscape fragmentation also, and which tells us whether its catchment is also integrated. Actually, two terms have come in recent years, as most of you may be knowing: ecosystem integrity. So now in this case, it may be wetland per se integrity of the wetland in terms of physical, chemical, and biological integrity, and then we have catchment integrity, that there should not be many changes, and some of the landscape elements like patch and what are the things which are happening. If the number of patches have increased, then there is fragmentation, shape, size, etc. if they have increased, and whether perforation, sometimes we don't get patch divided, but there may be small, you can say, perforation, either by forest department itself or by the local people. This is over the years how the things have happened. Now the last point is that how to do wetland rehabilitation and restoration. Ramsar Convention does give a framework, and there is a framework by World Lake authorities also. But in my opinion, we should have these three components: hydrology, water quality, biodiversity, structural components, as I mentioned earlier, habitat, biota assemblages, and invasive species information, all these, which mainly will come from field data, besides your structural component, which will come from remote sensing. Then catchment will also be very important. Nature of land use, forested, whether it is non-forested, then what are the stressors like industry or urban areas, and what is its setting, lithology, landform, slope, etc. But on top of it, people. What are the, whether and in what way people are dependent on wetlands, their socio-cultural ethos are there, what are the values, and based on these we assess ecosystem integrity, which is a combination of physical, chemical, and biological integrity of any aquatic system, and catchment integrity. Then we define objectives, and then we prepare rehabilitation plan. It is a repetitive, or you can say, exercise, and then we implement it, and then restore it, and then we evaluate it. And if we find that there are issues, then again we go for this. And that is, in my view, we can have wetland rehabilitation and restoration. So this is example of deeper wheel. In this case, we did only wetland part only, because subsequently, as I mentioned earlier, I was not with SAC. And based on certain data like trophic state index, dissection index, and based on some criteria-based decisions, we identified those areas which require some rehabilitation. We divided the lake into various sectors, as you can see, ultra oligotrophic, because earlier the problem was we used to treat whole lake as eutrophic or mesotrophic, but no, there are parts of the lake which may be mesotrophic, part may be eutrophic, and similarly, how the lake is dissected. This again comes from landscape-based approach of analysis in GIS environment. And then we have various indices we developed, especially pest density within the wetland. And based on this decision, we divided, this lake into various places where we have some biophysical parameters should be regulated, like water quality, etc. And those places where water holding capacity is required, some places where no action is required, and some places may require dredging. But mind it, this was only for wetland per se. We studies done on catchment integrity. Now, as far as wetlands are concerned, how geomatics can help us to study wetlands. So first we have dealt with what is geomatics, various components, how geomatics can be used to study wetlands, especially for inventory, health assessment, and development of various information systems for developing decision support systems. Now there was a time when we were roaming around in the country and asking people to make use of remote sensing. And there were not many institutions in the country, but nowadays, there are so many institutions that it was difficult for me to list all of them. But whatever I could list from my memory and knowledge, that our premier training institute of Indian Institute of Remote Sensing at Dehradun, then Institute of Remote Sensing Anna University is also very old university which imparts training in remote sensing. And now NRSC, they also conduct some every year, some 2-3 courses. And SAC also provides training, but it is mainly need-based. And these are various institutions like CSRE IIT Mumbai, MDS University Ajmer, Guru Jambheshwar University Hisar, CPT University Ahmedabad, University of Energy Studies, which were earlier Petroleum and Energy Studies. Now recently it has been named as only Energy Studies. Then ISM Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, and large number of these institutions are. And they impart training in almost all spheres of remote sensing. But unfortunately, let me be honest with you, that as far as their use in wetlands is concerned, it is not very, very widespread. First thing is to do conventional research in wetland is also very rigorous and requires training and aptitude and those kind of things. Then making use of this geospatial techniques, not many people are using it. And I request to people to take care of this. Now, once you are trained, what are the job opportunities available to you? And for this, you should keep recently announced new geospatial policy 2021. And now earlier there were so many restrictions on use of satellite data, on use of maps, and so on and so forth. Now I believe that with the this policy coming in, there will be spurt in expansion of usage of remote sensing, GIS, and other associated technologies for various resources, whether it is wetland or forest or other bioresources and environment. And through this work, suppose you are working on wetlands, then you may become GIS expert or technician. Suppose you don't go further, then if you are working in a particular area of environment, then you can become. And mind it, nowadays, without use of remote sensing and GIS, you cannot study or you cannot do a good job as far as environmental management is concerned. You can become engineer, and besides becoming academic professional and software engineer if your background is in physics, engineering, etc. Now, as far as wetlands are concerned, as you know very well, that you can be a faculty and researcher. And I urge you people, though many people in Manipur are doing work on wetlands, but unfortunately, in many universities. Now you know that even Delhi University, JNU, they don't have a person who is working on wetlands in the university after retirement of Professor Vashne and unfortunate demise of Professor Pesgopal. And you know, all these things are there. Then you can be a very good wetland ecologist, nature conservation, restoration and rehabilitation of wetlands. Now I tell you that from March 1, this decade is for ecosystem restoration. This decade has been declared as the decade of ecosystem restoration by UN Assembly. And you will find more and more projects being taken for restoration and rehabilitation of wetlands. Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and especially the organization with which I am associated, presently Wetland International South Asia. We are also doing many projects. Recently, we have made one action plan, or WISA has made action plan for East Kolkata wetland, and you can be a wetland professional, water quality experts, and treatment wetland engineer. Sometimes later I will talk about it. And then various NGOs can also be. They also require people which specialize in remote sensing of wetlands. So, with this, though I try to condense in a very short time so much of information, because I thought that it may be worthwhile to include part of remote sensing and how it can be used for the study of wetland and various resources. So with this, I conclude my talk, and I am now open to questions and answers. And I am visible, I hope now.
Thank you, Professor J.K. Garg, for your valuable lectures about spatial resolution, spectral resolution, radiometric resolution, GIS, mapping scales, and satellite data. So if there is any queries among the participants, you can ask to Professor Skeeter.
Basically, it was not possible to cover everything, but I've tried to condense many things in a 1 hour presentation.
Now, I request Professor Asa Gupta, President and Convener of National Shakti, to give her presidential speech.
Professor Gupta, Professor Garg, can I ask a question for you?
Professor J.K. Garg, Indraprastha University. A number of stalwarts are also present in this meeting. Professor Niranjan Behra from Sambalpur University, Dr. Naveen Ambasht from Christchurch College, Dr. Anandita from also Christchurch College, Dr. Aliwa, Dr. Sunanda Sahu from Sambalpur University, Dr. Shiva Chaturvedi from Nehu, Shillong, Dr. Ratna from Manipur University, Dr. Dhanraj, Dr. Vinota from Manipur University, Dr. Nilapati, and other participants. I'm very happy. Today has seen this is the last day of our Science Week celebration, and today has seen the greatest gathering. Maybe because our person is so renowned that for his speech, so many persons gathered here. It is very heartening to see a gathering of number of students and faculty members who are present over here. As far as the Science Week is concerned, we started from 11th.
Your sound has gone. Why?
Which happened to be the International Day of Science for women and girls. And the theme this year was Women Scientists in Fighting COVID-19. As we know that
50% population, if they are not empowered, then we cannot have peaceful society. And especially in this pandemic time, what was the role it was placed on that day. Then we have a series of lectures in this time, during this time between 11th to today, 28th February is there, which is National Science Day, to commemorate Raman effect. And we had many important talks, like how science and technology can revolutionize 21st century, importance of mathematics, why we should study mathematics. Then women fight against COVID-19, director of virology lab, of regional virology lab. She has given her experience and told a number of women who are involved throughout the world, even in developing vaccine, knowledge sharing, I mean, getting knowledge about the virus and also testing technology and so on and so forth. And then we have like microscopy, the importance of microscopy and knowledge about it, that what is there. And in this series now we have got also one lecture on wetland fish diversity. Professor Vishwanath is a renowned ichthyologist from Manipur, and we had got a very good discussion on that day. And today in this series, this is the last lecture, and I'm really amazed to listen Professor Garg. Of course, we have heard him earlier, but today the way he has presented so beautifully the whole I mean, it is just the essence what he has worked throughout, and then what work he has done at the, I mean, and that also he has incorporated. So he started with his lecture, he started with what is remote sensing, and then about electromagnetic spectrum he talked about earth observation satellites, both passive and active types, then satellite orbits. He talked about spatial resolution, spectral resolution, radiometric resolution. Then he talked about advantages of Earth observation of satellites, also disadvantages he dealt with. He talked about the how the information has to be extracted, visual data analysis, digital data analysis, then supervised and unsupervised classification. Then ISRO developed software about, also he has given information, IGIS and other software he has told. Then he's told about Indian satellite system, and then about GIS in detail, how it is used in decision making context. GPS he has talked, then mapping skills and satellite data. He talked facts about wetlands, and definitions, then about Ramsar, then COAD, in which I think the students, they are aware about it. Then he talked about wetland systems, marine, estuarine, lacustrine, riverine, palustrine, different components of wetlands, ecosystem services. Very beautifully he has covered provisionary, regulatory, and these services which are there. Then value of wetlands he has covered. He talked about also man-made wetlands. He talked about mapping wetlands. Then he has provided wetland map of the world. Then he talked about wetland inventory up to 2007. Then he has referred to Chilica. He talked, this is the 2nd February, in this month itself, we have observed World Wetland Day, and it happened to be the 50th anniversary in 2021 of that Wetland Day, which started in 1971, I mean, at the time of Ramsar Convention. So, I mean, then he has talked about the sites which are there, Ramsar sites of India, occupying 108,138 hectares. Then he mentioned that since 1990, 50% of wetlands are lost, and some countries have lost even 80% of wetlands. It is really very, I mean, we have to think about it, that how we are losing the wetland, what are the factors that we are losing it so fast. Then he's saying that India is losing smaller wetlands more, and 1/3 of them we have lost in the last 4 decades. He talked major wetlands threats. He has referred to Loktak because he worked here. He talked about our Dr. Sunita, who was also involved when the work was done on Loktak and inventory, etc. was made. He talked about Loktak Development Authority work, how he was involved in that when T. Manihar was there in 2011, Trishal was there. And he is working since that WISA since long time, he mentioned. Then he talked that we have to protect our wetlands for monitoring of wetlands for wetland health. What indexes for like chlorophyll concentration, trophic index, turbidity, etc. These can be monitored, and we can I mean take the precautions. We can be aware that what is happening in the wetland and take the steps for the. Then he talked about the ecosystem restoration, structural component, the catchment characteristics are very important as far as we cannot separate it. He has talked about the people's dependence on wetlands, the socioeconomic profile, so on and so forth. He talked in detail that how his work, I mean in his work, he has done a lot of work like this erosion deposit in that Ganga River. In that, then he has talked about this Renuka wetland fragmentation of it. He has talked about how they have monitored chlorophyll, for example, in the river system, and then they can give the productivity. They can know the status of fishery which is over there. So a lot of important aspects he has talked. Sir, we are so much thankful to you. You have covered so beautifully so many aspects. Really, I salute you for your knowledge, for your wisdom, which you have in a very beautiful, lucid style, sir. You have covered all these things. Now, I will just come to this Science, Technology, Innovation Policy STIP 2020. This policy aims to realign priorities, sectoral focus, and methods of research and technology development with goals of larger socioeconomic progress. So, the role of STI here, it is to address social, economic, and environmental problems. And Sir has told it very nicely with reference to wetlands, that how these problems are to be addressed. When we talked about sustainable development goals, it is not the actually the innovation or the research which is done in labs, but we have to care for the fields. And then sir is also talking about that the field data, about the things which we have to collect, and then how it is the serious study that we have to take our innovation in the field, our data in the field which we have collected, then the lab, then utilize the technology, and then we have to come conclusions for utilization of our resources. Because when he talked that in the beginning, then he talked that we know that science and technology, they're important to life. As far as we talk of India, that most of our resources, they are in stress. So it is very much important that we have to protect our resource, we have to monitor our resource, we should have our own innovativeness, we should have collective imaginary, and we should support experimentation, and we should work towards sustainability. So I think that we have to create not only the technocrats, but we should have the skilled human resource which will work towards the continued economic growth, and we require constant skilled manpower for it. He has talked very beautifully about how in about remote sensing in geomatic science, that how we need these skilled manpower. And then we know that in India, for example, India, I mean the government itself is the biggest consumer of GIS application, and it uses it actively. And India has diverse landscape, so we require technology like GIS. And there are, of course, private players are there in infrastructure, telecom, and other utilities, spending, for example, rupees 50 crore annually on GIS products and services. So several industries are there. They're also doing outsourcing jobs in application of map generation, remote sensing, photogrammetry. Insurance companies are there also. So it is the teachers. You see, sir was there in ISRO, but he wanted to once he narrated, he want that his knowledge should be utilized by the students. And then he came to Delhi. He joined Indraprastha University. He was immediately made being. He's so knowledgeable, and then I mean his knowledge he's sharing with the students. So we know, I mean, that these trained candidates which are there in the field of GIS, they are to be trained instead of the placement opportunities for them, there are many if they have got the GIS skills. So with this, again I thank sir for your sir very what to say, lucid, in a very lucid style, very informative lecture. And you have talked also with reference to Loktak. So I think students who have seen Fumdis, who have known that what is happening in Loktak. So they have definitely enjoyed Sir's resource, I mean Sir's knowledge, and then what he has talked about lake and inventory, which he was involved with here, and all those things. So sir, again, I thank you. And now I hand over this to Dr. Diteswari.
Thank you, Professor Asal Gupta. Now I request Dr. Rajkumari Sunita Devi, Additional CEO, SLNA, Watershed Planning Department, to propose vote of thanks.
Unmute yourself, Sunita. Unmute yourself.
Okay. Thank you, Viteshwari. It is indeed my pleasure and my fortune that I'm here to thank, especially for Professor Garg, my mentor, and whom I have known lovingly for many years, a great scientist, issue scientist. It brings tears to my eyes that I am giving this vote of thanks today for the lecture given by Professor Garg, J.K. Garg. He was known to me from many years since we worked together for the inventory of Loktak Lake and for other wetlands of Manipur. Thank you, sir. Your lecture was so much intuitive and educational. You talk about very easily the science of remote sensing and how this application is used for study of natural resources, especially for wetland. And now we don't find so many limnology studies which have such an in-depth about technology and coming to the application of this science for the study of these wetlands. So thank you, sir. We are indeed again very fortunate to hear you talk about not just about the technology of remote sensing. You touch about how the GIS comes into not just remote sensing, it develops gradually the use of GIS, then how data were being analyzed to get information about this natural resource, then how the science of wetland was covered in just 3 words, the HHH. It is indeed very, very informative, sir, the hydrology, the hydrophytic vegetation, and hydric soil. So then you also mentioned about how the benefits of wetland is not just for, the study of the science itself, but for livelihood alternatives, for water security, for aesthetic values, and even for disaster risk reduction, and how the convention of the Ramsar is a first of its kind for conservation of wetlands. It is indeed a very, very great pleasure to thank you once again for the time you gave, not just for today's lecture, but being an eminent person for studying the wetlands of Manipur. And it is really my heartfelt pleasure and thanks when you mentioned about NS Singh, the former director of Manipur Remote Sensing Application Center. He expired way about 4 years back, and I take this moment to thank Dr. NS Singh, who was a former director of Manipur Remote Sensing Application Center. I thank the president of today's webinar, or we can say this live telecast, for representing the Society for Environmental Education and Development Manipur, which is a group formed by Professor Asal Gupta. We have like-minded people coming together for the study of natural resources in this part of Manipur, and maybe we can even go and touch other parts of northeastern states, which we aim to do further work. And it's indeed a very, very great pleasure for me to again thank all the participants. We have so many participants. I see 73 of them today, and indeed, like Madam Asa said, that it is because of Sir Garg's nobility and his aura that we could attract so much participant today. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And I thank all the organizing secretary of this webinar, and in celebration of the National Science Week or the National Science Day of India today, I once again thank all and each one of you for making this event such a successful one. and hope we can again organize such kind of webinar. If not, like having a big conference, but we can feel the same, like doing a virtual thing, but all the information we get, all the technology you have shared with us, and it is really very heartfelt pleasure to see that Sir Garg is still healthy now and such a knowledgeable, and in just this 1 hour, how many multidisciplinary subject he have touched, and again, coming back to the study of limnology and remote sensing for me, which I've also given up when I work for the watershed. So thank you, sir, so much. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you all the participants. Let's have another this kind of series if possible. So thank you once again.